Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Metagame, the live streaming show right here on the Dice Towers YouTube channel, where we not only talk about board games, but sometimes talk about talking about board games. And I'm not going to be sitting here talking all by myself, because each episode we're joined by the live streaming chat window, who will be sending in questions and comments and other ways to participate with the show by using the hashtag #TheMetagame in their posts. So if you're in the live stream chat right now and you have a question or a comment during this episode that you want to have considered for inclusion in the show, be sure to include the hashtag TMG in your comment, because I'll be using my web browser's handy dandy search tool to search for that phrase to highlight that hashtag, so I'll be able to find those comments even faster. This episode is kind of a special one because this is it. We're at a year. We've been doing the metagame here for a year now as part of the 2016 Dice Tower Kickstarter fundraiser that they did. One of their stretch goals was to have me produce a series of videos each month for the Dice Tower, and the metagame is one of those videos. Now, this year's fundraiser, the one that has just a couple days to go for the Dice Tower to finance 2017, the stretch goal to allow me to be included in the Dice Tower was reached. So thank you all very much. It's a smaller stretch goal, though. So as a result, I will still be producing videos for the Dice Tower through 2017. But I'm not going to be producing as many per month. 2016, I produced 10 videos a month for the Dice Tower, which wasn't necessarily biting off more than I could chew, but my mouth was certainly full. So I actually requested to scale that back just a little bit so I could spend a little more time on each video, and also make sure that I can take care of everything else that needs to be done in producing the channel and the videos and everything like that. And so there will be fewer videos produced each month for the Dice Tower, which makes me wonder, I don't know if the metagame will continue on the Dice Tower channel. Maybe I'll move it to the Paradise channel. Maybe it'll just be less frequent. I don't know. But I'd like to know what you guys think about that. Let me know in the comments below or something. And based on the audience response, we'll see what happens with future episodes, how often they are, and where they are. But speaking to you guys in the chat, before we get today's topic, which today, to celebrate the 1 year anniversary of the show and just kind of wrapping up this year's fundraiser, Kickstarter, stretch goal and stuff. To celebrate, I just want to do kind of a topic cornucopia, stuff that pops into our minds, and any questions and general Q&A that you have. So anything, any general questions, anything that's been on your mind or whatever, post those in the chat and I'll be going through those. There's also a forum post on the Board Game Geek forum that had some questions that I'll be doing. I'm going to start there and then I'll come back to the chat, start going through the chat scroll. But before we get to that, what I was going to say is, speaking of you guys in the chat, speaking of you guys in the chat, I wanted to mention that one of the best benefits of this show is that I have met so many of you guys who are regulars in this little chat window that scrolls by. I've met a couple of you in person at shows, which is fantastic. But others who I only know through your chat avatar name, Kabuki Kid, Toyota, Gazensha, even Trevin and his microwave obsession, so many more, Mike Jones, no really. There's at least a dozen more people who are regulars in the chat window. I just want to let you guys know that getting to know you guys better throughout this year has been the best result of this show, and to the point where there's so many of you who I now genuinely consider to be friends. And it's awesome. It's great. So let's go over to the forums, the forums in the Board Game Geek chat, and we'll start with the questions there. Then I'll circle back to our chat window for the rest of the show, and we'll just see where the conversation goes from here. So let me turn on, boop, there we go, so you can see what I'm seeing. We have Kalimo right here, who asks the question that's on everyone's mind, apparently. The very first question that we received here. Might as well just delve into it now. Kalimo asks, will the microwave storyline be tied up, or will we be looking at a cliffhanger ending? Well, like I mentioned, this while the stretch goal for last year's fundraiser is drawing to a close, there is the stretch goal for this year. While this year is wrapping up, it doesn't necessarily mean that the metagame and the microwave side quest therein is necessarily going to come to a halt. So Kalimo, you can be happy to know that we will have a means to provide more updates and information on the microwave storyline. My quest for a replacement microwave that, yes, is still ongoing. That whole microwave storyline will continue as more information develops. Okay, Darth Ed takes the time to fly by and ask. He says, Darth Ed is obviously a huge fan of Star Wars. But actually, I guess, but I've so far resisted the temptation of Star Wars Destiny. Okay, I'm not doing that anymore. Your balanced, less than glowing review of the game was a wellspring of fortitude for me. But your comments on Joel Eddy's video last week have me wondering, have you succumbed to Star Wars Destiny? Has your opinion changed since you posted your video review? Help me, Chaz Marler, you're my only hope. In your opinion, how much does one have to spend on Star Wars Destiny in order to have a reasonable amount of cards and dice to be able to play 3 different hero decks and three different villain decks? Hello again. Well, that's a really good series of questions. So here's a little background on Darth Ed's question. This was one of the more interesting, I think, events for me in my videos of the last couple of weeks. Was the response to the Star Wars Destiny video. Essentially, Star Wars Destiny is a new collectible card and dice game from Fantasy Flight, where you will be building decks and collecting dice. And it's collectible, so there's rares, there's legendaries, there's uncommons and commons and such, and you buy them in blind packs, similar to Magic and whatnot. That kind of structure to the game. So I now in my experience with the game, in my review, I mentioned that I wasn't as taken with the game as others have been. I don't hate it, but it's it has not been my favorite so far. But what's really ironic about that is the last month, it has been the game that I've been playing the most often, most frequently. And, why is that? And part of this was mentioned in Joel Eddy's video collaboration that myself and a half dozen other content creators were talking about online. And the reason why, and this is the main reason, the main highlight of Star Wars Destiny for me, the main thing I've enjoyed about it is that my favorite thing about Star Wars Destiny is that it's a fairly fast, games typically take about 35 to 45 minutes, it seems. It's a fairly fast game that I've been able to play with friends over Skype online. And I have this circle of friends that I keep in touch with a lot online. And we're scattered all over the country, even internationally a little bit. So, we see each other at conventions maybe twice, maybe 3 times a year, not that often. And at the conventions, they're always so hectic, everyone's always busy. So, and there's been games like Overwatch that I don't play, and Rainbow Six, which I don't play, and all these other games that have come along that a lot of the other people in this circle of friends have been playing, and I've kind of sat on the sidelines. And Star Wars Destiny is the first game that's come along that I've also invested my own time and money in to be able to participate along with them, and playing with people online over Skype. The game is if you have a webcam a decent little tripod to point the webcam at your table so they can see your cards and dice that you're playing. It's a game that really lends itself to playing over Skype that way. And that has been fantastic. It's been the best part of the experience with it. So yeah, I've been playing a lot, actually, this last month. I've been playing a lot of Star Wars Destiny. But like they say, it's not just the games, it's the people who play them. And with this, that has really been the funnest part. So, I've been enjoying, like I said, I don't hate the game. But if it wasn't for this circle of friends, I probably wouldn't be investing any more in it. But they are really what's made it fun. And that's one of the really strong things about Star Wars Destiny, I think. More than anything else is that ability, the flexibility in the way that you can play it and who you can play it with over online if you have that technology. That's really cool about it. But then there was a second part of your question, Ed. In my opinion, how much does one have to spend on Star Wars Destiny in order to be able to make a reasonable amount of cards and dice to be able to play 3 different hero decks and 3 different villain decks? Well, I purchased both of the starters that are available. And then to kind of get me a card seed pool so I can get a good evaluation of the game, I bought 10 booster packs to go along with that. And then when I started playing with others online, I bought 10 more booster packs. So 2 starters and 20 boosters was enough to allow me to make 2 decent villain decks and maybe 1 hero deck that I could squeak by with. So I'd say probably doubling that amount of boosters. So the 2 starters and 40 boosters, which is getting into some pretty pricey territory, subjectively speaking. But I'd say that would be the amount to be able to make a reasonable amount of 3 and then 3. Of course, the decks are going to vary. You'll play 1 really good hero, 1 really good villain deck, and the other 2 will kind of taper down in quality. But that would be my guesstimate. That would be the minimum guesstimate, I think. The 2 starters plus 40 boosters. And if people have more experience with it, correct me if I'm wrong, tell me what your experience has been in getting those to create that many decks. But I hope that information is informative and kind of fills in those blanks of, if based on your review, why are you still talking and playing about this game? So hopefully that's why. Strange insight. You might not have realized this, but I enjoy playing games. And so if the opportunity to come play one hits the table, even if it's not my favorite, there's a pretty good chance I'll be willing to participate in it if I enjoy the people I'm playing with. So, All right, let's continue on now to the next question, which is from Christian. He asks, why aren't you fitting this show around my personal timetable? I'd really like it to be on Sundays at 10 CET. And I think that 1 p.m. PST is a great time for you as VBug is sleeping. So if I do it at 1 a.m. in the middle of the night, Pacific time, great time for that. And I won't have any other commitments. And he also mentions that he thinks Friday at 8 p.m. isn't bad theoretically, but with game night starting at 7:30 and Christian needing to leave by 6:30 at the latest, he thinks I should rethink my timetable. Thank you, Christian. Your comments have been filed for further consideration in the future. Let's go on to the next part of his question here. Yes, did you already talk Tom into taking you and your wife, if it's more vacation, to Essen this year? I don't take no for an answer. You might not take no for an answer, but Tom does. No. What's really weird is Essen is very far away. And it's a major commitment and time trip, especially with having a child. But what's really interesting is my wife actually she asked me last year if I was going to be going to Essen this year. And I said, no, I don't think I'm going to Essen. And she actually mentioned, well, if I ever get the chance to go to Essen, she wants to go too. She is more excited about going to Essen than I am. So, because she wants to go and see the sights and everything. So that's kind of nice when your spouse, wants to do something like that as well. That helps improve the odds of making it happen. But as for right now, as far as I know, this year, there's no plans for me to make the trip all the way to Essen or the UK Gaming Expo. Both of which, though, would be awesome, but it's such a large expense and takes so much planning. I'm not holding my breath, but would be cool. Okay, let's go back and finish off Christian's questions. He asks, is Rogue One the best movie in the Star Wars universe that has been shown yet? And have you been able to watch the Christmas special completely? If yes, in one go. All right, so those of you who don't know, there was in the late 70s or so, a half-hour TV special based on Star Wars, which is floating around out there on YouTube. It is so bad. You need to watch it. And it's so bad that George Lucas himself has shunned its very existence and wishes it didn't exist. To answer your question about the Christmas special, kind of. The closest I've come to sitting through the entire Star Wars Christmas special is actually watching the Nostalgia Critics review of it on YouTube. If you can watch the Nostalgia Critic or the Chris Stuckman reviews of the Star Wars Christmas special, I think that's enough of it to get the gist of what the show is about without having to completely go brain dead from watching the whole thing in its entirety. You'll see enough of it to get the idea. So that's the version of it that I've seen. But yes, I have experienced it, and yes, there are regrets. To answer your other question, is Rogue One the best movie in the Star Wars universe that has been shown yet? Well, your other question just answered that, actually. I mean, can't really say Star Wars Rogue One is the best while that Christmas movie does exist out there. So, you gotta take that into consideration, and that knocks the others down a peg. And Christian's final question is, when will we get the rap battle rematch between you and Flip the Tables moderator Chris? I think we would also be fine with a rock battle, or a J-pop battle, or just a classic symphony battle. I have been practicing my cello work. Actually, moderator Chris, who is an excellently talented content creator, brilliant guy. I don't know about another rap battle because sometimes instead of trying to capture lightning in a bottle, you realize it's better to let that bottle lie and try something different. Maybe try capturing lightning in a Tupperware container or a small margarine jar. So actually, moderator Chris and I have been discussing some sort of collaboration later this year, something to do together, because we had a lot of fun. But we don't know what that will be yet. So hopefully we'll see something in the months to come. And finally, the last question from the Board Game Geek forum list was from Robert, who asked if I was able to get a new camera yet or not. That's been one of my personal goals for my own content creation. For the last 3-4 years since I started, I have been using a $199 little Canon camera, which is way over there. I'm not going to go get it. But anyway, it's fit the bill. It's worked. It captures video. But it doesn't have a manual focus on it. So if you may have noticed in several of my videos, as Robert mentions in some of his comment, he mentioned how a lot of my videos will go in and out of focus sometimes. And even doing multiple takes of a scene, sometimes I'll have to just pick the scene where it stays in focus the most. One of my personal goals has been to invest in a normal camera, a higher quality camera, I should say. And it's one of those things, saving the nickels and the dimes. There's been lots of generous support from viewers from the Dice Tower and other, the Paradise channel proper. And I've been able to squirrel away little bits of that money a little bit at a time. So little by little, I'm getting closer to it. And I'm hoping that it'll happen. And when it does, it'll be hopefully a quality improvement that everyone will be able to enjoy who watches the videos. So, but for now, still working on it. And then Robert followed up with a final question where he asks, speaking of Thrift Sift, are you planning to make more? They are by far my favorite feature, and they are a major reason I subscribed to Pair of Dice Paradise. Well, Robert, you will be happy to know a couple other people have asked this, and in 2017 coming up, I actually have wrangled up. I wanted to make more thrift sifts, but I want to make them more consistent, so it's something that people can kind of plan on. Now, I have no idea what's going to happen throughout the year, but I have wrangled up about 10 games that are good candidates for thrift sift episodes, some of which have been donated by viewers, which they are on the pile. They're in the list. Thank you guys very much. I have about 10, so I'm hoping to do like one every, I'd say, between 4 to 8 weeks, do another thrift sift episode. So yes, they are on the docket. Life will tell how many we're able to do, but I'm hoping to do them more consistently in 2017. So hopefully that'll be something to share with Dice Tower viewers as well. All right, let's pop over now to the live streaming chat and see if we can find some questions and catch up with all the questions that we need to catch up on here. There we go. Oops, that did not take. I almost searched for flip the table, which I still have that on my mind, apparently. All right, looks like we have like 40 questions on here, so let's get plowing through them now. Kabuki Kid starts us off as always. Always a pleasure to see your name and words, Kabuki. Starts us off with the question, Chaz, any chance you will do more versus the internet games? The one you did with Las Vegas was really fun. It was enough to make me seek out the game afterwards. Well, you know what? That has been one of the things on my mind. The real trick in that, there's several wrinkles. The real trick is finding a game that plays well against a remote anonymous player, like the internet. A game that actually lends itself to that play format. If I can find another game like that, yes, I would like to do more versus the internet games. That was a lot of fun. It was a neat experience. Especially playing so much Star Wars Destiny online, I have my little other webcam set up on a tripod facing down on my table in a little play area. So I kind of have this whole little play area set up now too, which is nice, which will accommodate that. The other wrinkle, of course, is that my streaming bandwidth, as some of you know, based on the resolution size of these the metagame videos, my upstream speed isn't the fastest, so I have to kind of downsample my video quality. So the other trick is finding a game that also will show up on camera well enough for people to be able to see it. The Las Vegas was good, but even then sometimes I was worried that people wouldn't be able to make out the dice just due to resolution issues. So, but yeah, so there's your answer, Kabuki. Toyota mentions, he asks, Chaz, in your gaming group, how do you deal with teaching a game several times to new folks? As in every time you pull out the game, you're introducing it to new people. What are some out-of-print games? What are some out-of-print or hard-to-find games that you think should make a comeback? Okay, well, first things first. Dealing with teaching a game to several times. Basically, every time you bring out a game, reteaching it. How do I deal with it? That's a really good question. The way that I personally deal with it is I assume, it's just going to be something that comes with the territory. It's so funny because when actually this very weekend, starting today, actually starting 20 minutes ago, is my local big game club's 3-day convention has kicked off. So anyone in the Eugene area, it's going to Egg this weekend, the Eugene Games Gala. Hope you guys are having fun, and I hope to join you a little bit later on. But anyway, at these game club meetings, whether it's one I'm joining, one I'm hosting, or one like Egg where I'm going there and it's full of gamers, at every single one of these get-togethers, I am surprised when I sit down at a table, even with other gamers, and everyone at the table knows how to play the game already, and we don't have to do a rules explanation. Honest to goodness truth, I think that maybe 1 out of every 20 games that I play, maybe every 1 out of every 20, we can actually sit down and play without having to go over the rules. And it's just the nature of the social aspect of the hobby and other gamers and the wide variety of games that are available out there. So how do I deal with it? I figure it just goes with the territory. If I'm really, 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 really not in the mood to explain rules, I just want to play, I'll usually set up I'll have a couple people over at my house or something, or get together with some close friends, and we'll plan ahead of time. We're going to play this game that we all know how to play, and it actually takes a little extra planning. So, I just kind of grin and bear it, knowing that it comes with the territory. It's just part of it's a part of our hobby. Going over and explaining and learning rules together is part of the board gaming experience. So you can't just say board gaming is just gaming. The rules learning can be sometimes, some days even, 50% or more of the entire experience. And it's just what it takes. You got to find the fun in it. Toyota's follow-up question: what are some out-of-print or hard-to-find games that I think should make a comeback? I would love a game I mentioned in a video earlier this week, and one that I would list as my candidate for restoration games is Manhattan, the mid-90s game of building skyscrapers in Manhattan and stuff. The game holds up really well. There are some things that are a little clunky, like the way you play cards to do things. I think that we've learned some things in game design where we could streamline that a little bit. But I would love to see a nice high-end newer sculpts, and some revisions to the streamlining card play. I'd love to see a new version of Manhattan come out. I think that is the number one game on my list to see come back. That would be the comeback one. Okay, so Gazensha joins us to ask the question: have you been able to filter through the cornucopia of options to find the microwave that's right for you yet? No. I will admit this month has been a little extra crazy with it being the beginning of the year and stuff. So the whole searching for the microwave has been put on hold probably until next month. But hopefully next month we'll have those answers that we all seek, apparently. And believe me, I'm actually considering getting an extension cord for a USB extension cord so I can set up a webcam out there or periscope it when I actually get it and install it. I'm starting to think I need to do that to share it all with you guys. But let's continue on to the next question. Kabuki asks, do you have any current Grail games? My previous Grail game was Pushover, which through the magic of helpful people on the internet and Google and eBay, I actually was able to track down. And it's this game. I actually have a video about it floating around out there. So if you search for Grail game, you'll find a video where I'm talking about this game called Pushover. Pushover used to be my Grail game. And then what I actually did is after I obtained Pushover, I thought, well, I got my Grail game. I thought, you know what, I'm gonna make a list. I'm always gonna have one that I'm kind of searching for to kind of give myself something to kind of keep an eye out for. And to be honest, it's been a while since I've been thinking about it, but I haven't come up with the Grail game yet. So I'm sure that there's one that if I gave it enough thought would pop into my mind. But off the top of my head, I can't think of what one would be, but I'm sure I will soon. And when I do think of it, I'll put it in the comments or something. Or I'm sure I'll follow up with you guys and we'll talk about it in an upcoming episode. So not at the moment, but it is something that is in the back of my mind to come up with another one. Toyota mentions that Grail games are an excellent topic. I agree. Oh, Toyota's would be Zaya. Oh, yeah, Zaya of a Legends of Drift system. If you enjoy that type of sandbox space game, I highly recommend Zaya. And it is, I think, a worthy candidate. It is a worthy candidate to be someone's Grail game. So I hope you can find a copy of Zaya, Toyota. Michael joins us to say that Michael says, I've been enjoying the metagame very much. Oh, thank you guys. I think Toyota just mentioned that too in another comment. I'm hoping it stays somewhere between the Dice Tower and PP, which I think is pair of dice. Oh yeah, pair of dice. I always put pod P, so I want to make sure I wasn't like, do you want me to start posting them on Privateers Press YouTube channel? But thank you guys. I appreciate that very much. It's always encouraging to know if something that you're doing, if people want you to continue with this series or switch to a different series or experiment. It's always nice to know what people are enjoying. So I appreciate the feedback. Continuing on to Trevin. Trevin says, cut back if you need to do an overall videos. Cut back if you need to on overall videos, but don't stop the metagame. Good to know. Now, of course, this is the audience of the metagame telling me this. So I will take all of this. I'll weigh that against the entirety of public opinion. But it is so awesome to know that there is this level of engagement with the show, even in episodes like this, which isn't centralized on a central topic. We're just seeing where things go. It's still great. Brian asks, Chaz, what was your favorite metagame topic already discussed or favorite metagame moment? Oh boy, you're going to put me on the spot. Oh, well, okay. I know the moment. But the favorite metagame topic already. There was, there was one where we were talking about upgrades to games and components of games. And that episode, I got a huge pile of games stacked up next to me before the show. I got like 6 to 8 games. And I actually went through opening up the boxes and showing the components to people and discussing them. And I went through the pile of games that way. And that was actually kind of neat because it was a unique, kind of different experience. There were a lot of different things about the games that we ended up talking about that I didn't know about, or I didn't plan on talking about. So that one was kind of a fun episode because it was a little bit different. But overall favorite metagame moment would be the specific moment I believe is in one episode, I was talking about annoyances in games or something. And I talked about cards that come pre-shrink wrapped in games. And I started talking about how I like it when they have the little tab that wraps around with a little string to make them easy to open, or a little hole in them to open. But then I started talking about the ones that are just completely shrink wrapped with no tab, or also other ways where they're really difficult. And I let myself just go completely off on it. I turned my filter off and just ranted about it for like 3 minutes. At least it felt like 3 minutes. And I remember reading the comments afterward, and I remember after doing that, it was like, it was kind of refreshing, kind of an escape there, kind of cathartic. And one of the comments on it was, I think we touched a nerve. So getting that level of response and being able to let myself just kind of go nuts a little bit for that I think was my favorite moment over the past year during episodes of the metagame. Okay. I see here Toyota mentions Tim, put TMG. So it looks like there was a comment from Tim that was a good question. So I'm going to break protocol here. It's the final episode of this Kickstarter. So I'm going to do whatever I want. So I'm going to actually mention Tim because it looks like Tim got overlooked, but people try to help Tim not get overlooked. So I'm going to jump in and see Tim here. Tim says, when you make your awesome videos, do you write down what you are going to say and have notes off camera? You seem so well versed. Keep up the great work. Well, thank you, Tim. Now it looks like I went out of my way to, I didn't even see your question before. I'm not going to apologize. Tim, that's an excellent question. And so, other than what you're seeing right now in the metagame, I'd say 90% of the videos I do script out. I'll actually write out a script. The box openings, like the ones where I go over this month's games I'm adding to my collection that I do with my daughter a lot, those are not scripted. Metagame is not typically scripted. Sometimes I'll write out something, and sometimes I'd say 3% of the metagame have like a scripted portion. But when I want to tell a story or something. But the others were usually where I'm standing in front of this backdrop. Yeah, those are scripted. And in terms of how I actually present that, I built a homemade little teleprompter using a couple of picture frames, a light stand for a studio light, and my iPad with a teleprompter app, and a little black cloth. And there's some really great teleprompter apps. In fact, anyone who wants to get into this, since we're talking about board games, I highly recommend a teleprompter app called Prompt Smart. And that's, oops, my chat window's in the way of my camera. For anyone wondering, there is well, that's not going to work very well. There's a really blurry, washed out image of the icon for it. But anyway, Prompt Smart is an excellent teleprompter application because it actually listens to you say the words and scrolls the text as you talk. So if you pause or go off script for a while, it will wait for you to come back and somehow knows where you're at in your script and scrolls it as you get to that point. It's magic. Anyway, so I tried at first, my very first videos, I put a script to the side of my camera, but you'd see me looking away at it. And so that's why I built the homemade teleprompter. All right. Pete Shirey from Simon joins us to ask, do you like sharks? If so, what is your favorite one? Well, I do enjoy a good shark. I'm sure that I am not the person who enjoys sharks most out of all of the people present in this current virtual room. But I do find them fascinating. And some of the myths about sharks, like I've heard, like if a shark ever stops swimming, it'll die instantly. But I don't think that's actually true. But what is my favorite shark? I actually think that as a board gamer, my favorite shark is a card shark. Someone that can do tricks and stuff and manipulate cards that way, I'm always jealous of, and I wish I could do that. So whether under the sea or on dry land, I would have to cop out and say a card shark is my favorite type of shark. So there you go, Pete. Gazentia asks, I'm not fussed if this is on the Dice Tower or Pod P, but I want to keep it weekly over your other videos. Good to know. Thank you, Gazentia. Another thumbs up for keeping the metagame going consistently. Kabuki Kid says something very encouraging, so thank you. Toyota mentions that he also enjoys getting to know me and everyone else that's going. Yeah, that's been a side effect of this show I didn't even think of. When we started the metagame, I honestly didn't even expect to recognize the people in the chat from one week to the next. I thought it'd just be a random assortment of people every week. But getting to know this regular audience has been the coolest, pleasant surprise I could have asked for. And it's awesome. Okay. Trevin says he's all warm and fuzzy now. Gazentia asks, any chance you'll be shipped out to the UK Gaming Expo with either the Dice Tower or Passport Game Studios? It would be great to meet you in person. Yeah, well, I touched on Essen and UK Gaming Expo earlier. Yeah, I don't know. This year, probably not. But again, as continuing to work in the industry, both with the Dice Tower and Passport Game Studios, I'm going to say those options aren't off the table, but really, we'll see. We'll find out. And when I do find out, though, anything like that, I will, of course, be sure to let you guys know. There's talk of a microwave BGG micro badge. Okay, that's kind of cool. I would get a microwave BGG micro badge, and I would actually probably find out if anyone would like assistance in getting that micro badge and see what I could do to help them out. That would be cool. Kabuki asks, what is the game mechanism you like the least that seems to be fairly popular, a modern mechanism that many like card drafting or worker placement, etc.? Are there any you just don't like? Ooh. Well, I will... Boy, any I don't like. Mechanisms I don't like. I'm looking at my game shelf, but I'm realizing any game that has that mechanism I don't like probably isn't going to be on my game shelf. Card drafting, I don't dislike. I like card drafting, but card drafting always leaves me feeling like, oh, I did this wrong, or I should have got that card, or it always leaves me feeling unfulfilled. But I like it, but maybe it's just because I'm not very good at card drafting. So there's that. Let me think on this one a little bit. The other one, programmed movement, seems to be hit or miss. There's some programmed movement games. I really like Volt, Robot Battle Arena. But I'm surprised I don't like Lords of Zidit as much as I thought I would, and they're both programming games. In fact, I got Lords of Zidit because of how much I enjoyed Volt, which is weird. And the other one is the Mancala mechanism, like in Five Tribes. It's taken me a while to warm up to that one, but I just haven't had a lot of exposure to it, actually. There was a gold mining, not Gold West. Maybe it was Gold West. No, maybe. I don't know. There's a gold mining game that had the Mancala mechanism in it that I actually liked. I was really surprised. So the Mancala mechanism is one that has been growing on me. So there you go. Card drafting, program movement, and Mancala mechanism. None of them are ones I dislike, but they're ones that either make me go, I need to figure out how to do this better, or I just haven't had a lot of experience with. So there's that answer there. Let's continue on to Toyota, who asks, what theme do you think is just dead? Additionally, what are your thoughts on games that come out and are very, very similar to other games? Okay, well, let's work backwards here. Games that come out that are very, very similar to other games, that gets on my nerves a bit. I'm a big believer in innovation and innovating, and I know that, though, it's a double-edged sword. Sometimes that innovation requires taking an existing idea and just kind of tweaking it and working with it. So taking another game and creating something that adds another layer to it, or takes that fundamental set of mechanisms or rule set and adds something beside it, that doesn't bother me as much. Like Dogopoly, Catopoly, Dice Toweropoly, those type of things, that level of carbon copying games, that gets on my nerves. Risk is one over the years that has gotten on my nerves. There have been in recent years some very innovative things done with Risk. Risk Legacy opened up a whole new potential genre of games to us that had not existed before. And that was, using Risk. That was amazing. But then you have other versions of Risk that are basically just Risk set with different pieces and a different theme thrown on it. And that's disappointing. I'm a big believer in innovating, put twists on there, even if it's just a layer or a new idea in addition to the existing rule set. As for themes that I think are just dead, it does seem like zombies have been tapering off an awful lot. And I think grumpy guys standing on box covers next to castles seems to be all but gone, which is good, again, for innovation's sake. Unless there's a theme that absolutely, grumpy castle builder, if that's going to be your game, then you got to have a grumpy castle guy on your game. But yeah, so I think those would be the main themes that I think. I think Vikings might be petering out a little bit, but we'll see on that. I'm wondering, I'd like to see more games based on the themes like video games. I don't know why, but Wreck-It Ralph popped into my head while I was answering this question. So I think there's still a lot of themes left to overdo and let them die out as well, but we just haven't gotten to them yet. Okay. Toyota also mentions that I should get a microwave mini that I can use in games that are your player piece. Well, if anyone knows of a game or a place to get miniature microwaves, sure, I'll be sure to pick some up. It would be a very unique component, and I'd be all over that. Brian continues the conversation by asking, if you could be a character in any game, what game would you like to be part of? Oh boy, a character in any game at all. You know, there was the Ghostbusters Protect the Barrier game that came out last year. And I know it's not based on the original, the real Ghostbusters cartoon or anything. It's based on the new movie. But I was such a fan of the real Ghostbusters cartoon when I was a kid that I would dream being in episodes of the real Ghostbusters and have conversations with the animated characters and go on adventures with them. So probably if I could be a character in any game right now, it would probably be, because of that reason, a character in the Ghostbusters Protect the Barrier game. Just because I miss having those fantasy adventures hanging out with the Ghostbusters. And it would be nice to relive that a little bit. All right. Let's see. More talk about microwave Board Game Geek micro badges. More conversations about that. Darth Grader joins us to say, considering the spike in participants that you had on your Sunday metagame, would your schedule allow you to do metagames periodically at other times during the weekend or week? That is always an option. The main reason I have kind of jumped around with the scheduling of the show a little bit. The main reasons that it's usually the time that it is because this is the time that really is the best opening in my own schedule each week. And also want to try and make it consistent so people can count on it. If it jumps around too much from time to time or channel to channel, that's going to make it more difficult for people to locate it. And I don't want to make it frustrating for people in that way. But I am considering figuring out maybe each month change it to a different, I'm not sure. But that is something I am considering, yes. Let's see. Toyota concurs. The weekends might be something to experiment with. Trevin also concurs, but he admits for completely selfish reasons. Toyota then asks, are there games you refuse to play? Yeah, there are. And you know, there's the obvious ones, like, you know, with my daughter around, and that, you know, anything that's not anything that's an adult game that's more than R-rated or something, I wouldn't play around my daughter and stuff. There are a couple of other games that I have decided I'm not going to play, but the reasons for that are kind of personal ones, and I don't want to get on a soapbox about it or anything. So it's more like if it ever comes up in a game club as an option, I kind of just, quietly move on to a different game. And I don't want to mention them here again, because I don't want to go into a soapbox of this is why and this and that. It's just, but yeah, there are a few. And I've actually thought about making that an episode of the metagame to talk about, but then I realized, if that's something that I don't want to publicize, it's probably something that others that have games they refuse to play feel the same way about, and they probably don't want to go into detail about it either. So I've actually shelved that discussion topic before. So there's a strange answer to your question there. We're about 10 minutes already from the end of the episode, so I'm going to try and enter the old lightning round here and get through as many of your questions as possible, because that's what this episode was all about, was questions. So it looks like I have at least 20 here that I need to get to, and the comments just jumped. I saw it was Darth Grader was the next. Here we are. Darth Grader starts off our lightning round with his question of, do you participate at all in the Thrifters Guild on BGG? I have seen it. I might have it bookmarked, but no, I don't actively participate in it. And I'd like to more, but the only reason why is it just with all the social media and all the things to follow, it's just too much. And I had to kind of trim off some things. And the Thrifters Guild was one that's like, I don't have enough bandwidth to follow this as well as what like I'd like to. So I'm aware of it, but I don't actively participate in it. Kabuki Kid, did you have a most disappointing game of 2016? Yes. I actually considered making a video about it called The Board Game That Broke My Heart. And I tried to not make it a bash against the game, but tried to talk about why. I might still make the video, but it still turned out a little too mean-spirited. I didn't want to come across as bashing it or being on a high horse. So I'll just mention it here since it's relevant. The most disappointing game for me of 2016 was Seafall. I looked forward to that game for since it was first announced, over 2 years. I had it pre-ordered, waiting for it to be released for at least a year. And I love what the designer did with Risk Legacy and Pandemic Legacy. And I think with Seafall, they just tried to do too much. So yeah, that was by far my most disappointing game. Continue on, lightning round. Toyota says, how frustrating is pre-ordering a game and then having its release date pushed back months or even a year? Legendary Alien expansions and Legendary Firefly did that. That is super mega frustrating. In fact, I think the beginning of 2016, or was it the beginning of 2015? Wow. I think it was the beginning of 2015. I can't remember. Beginning of one of those years, must be 2015. I actually had my New Year's resolution be I was not going to pre-order anything that year because of stuff continuing to get pushed back. Extremely frustrating. I've relaxed a little bit. I've pre-ordered some things like Seafall, but yeah, when stuff gets pushed back, it could be really, really frustrating. So I try to minimize it for myself. Trevin asks, I have to leave the Q&A early, so assume I asked questions about microwaves and HeroScape. For example, what is your favorite HeroScape faction? Do you mix factions, etc.? I think my favorite HeroScape faction is the monks, that they can kind of teleport jump. I like the monks best in terms of their player ability. My favorite looking ones are probably the ones that look like samurais. I just think that their paint jobs and their sculpts turned out really, really cool. So those are my two favorites. Do I mix factions? I do. I try not to, just from a thematic standpoint. Having all historical figures or all modern figures or all robots, just to me is funner from my own experience than having like a World War II veteran with a giant robot with a samurai warrior all fighting on the same team. But I'll do it because it's still fun, but it's not the answer to your question. Okay, Gazentia asks, experience the Star Wars Christmas special again or experience Beige? Oh, well, this is just a lose-lose proposition. There is only one answer, and that is to have the Star Wars Christmas special playing in the background while you're playing the Star Wars VCR board game. It's the only applicable solution that there is. So hope that helps give you the correct answer to that question. Darth Grader also asks, seeing as how you get to grace us with your Dice Tower presence for the coming year, do you plan to purchase any video/audio equipment upgrades for you, your channel, and your viewers? Yeah, if I can, number one thing on my list is a new Canon Vixia camera upgrade. That would be awesome. I actually got a little, it's hanging up there. I got a there was a generous donation from a viewer last summer that allowed me to get, it's hanging above me, that's why I'm looking upwards, the H4n audio recorder, which is fantastic. If you go back, you can probably see the change in video quality from the old little Bluetooth mic I used to use to when I changed to that. The increased video quality is just amazing. I also have this condenser mic that I was able to get last year as well. So there have been some upgrades. I'd like to improve my lighting. I'm still not an expert on how to do studio lighting, and every now and then my lighting is ridiculous. I'd also like to do something neat. I have some ideas for the backdrop, but that's, I'd rather focus on getting the content produced well rather than making the backdrop, spending my time and money on the backdrop. I'd rather invest in equipment and the content first. But anyway, there's my short list, Darth. Hope that helps. Let's continue on before we run out of time with Toyota, who also mentions, am I the only one who just squirreled and wonders how big the cloud is behind Chaz? The width of the cloud backdrop is the same as my arm span. So even though you can't see it, my arms are stretched outward. And if you could see the entirety of my stretchingness of arms, you know what? Next time you see me at a convention, ask me to stretch out my arms and pretend it's the backdrop, and then you'll know exactly how wide it is. Toyota also asks, what's your recording setup like? I did a Periscope a couple years ago where I actually Periscoped a behind the scenes of me recording a Head in the Clouds segment. I also did a little mini tour. Maybe as a stretch goal for the PodP stuff that's going on. Maybe I'll make that, if we hit a certain point, I'll do like a little mini studio review, recording setup overview. That might be fun if people care. So let me know if anyone cares. Christian says, thank you for the answers. Thank you guys for the questions. Couldn't do this show if it wasn't for your questions. I really appreciate it. Kabuki asks, are there more component proponent videos planned? Yes, there are. Actually, that is something specific. I'm working with a provider of components to actually make a monthly series blinging out a game with as many components as possible, which is a neat thing I'm planning on doing through 2017. So starting in February, hopefully there'll be a monthly video about that, which will be more components than we can believe. So those are coming as well, which is awesome. Thank you very much. I'll have more information about that, but thank you very, very much to the sponsor that's going to help make that happen. Gazentia mentions that it's weird to me that autofocus is now standard and manual focus is a deluxe feature. I remember when cameras were the other way around. I was surprised. I did not realize that my camera was autofocus only until after I purchased it. But it is what it is, as Tom would say. Toyota mentions, have you ever played the original Dungeon with exclamation point by TSR? I have not played the original Dungeon by TSR. I think the closest I have is Hero Quest, which I used to own. Actually, 2 years ago, during the Jack Vassal Memorial Fund auction, I picked up a new copy of Hero Quest. And it's one of the things in the pile to introduce to my daughter, along with Heroescape and a lot of the other classic games I enjoy. Toyota mentions, we're almost out of time. I'm going to continue as many as I can that are on screen. Toyota mentions, why are so many games targeted at max 4 players? It's so annoying. I prefer the option to go up to 8. I know what you mean. It always seems like we have 6 players. But I think it is because of that happy medium between the number of people you can accommodate to play and the length of the game. More players you add, the longer the game takes. And if the game is too long or has too many players, there might be more downtime, which could ruin the gameplay experience. So I think that 4 players is that happy medium. It's either that or the Metallica Black Album or whatever. There's so many games targeted at just because of that's, I think, the equilibrium that they found. Could be wrong. I'm sure a game designer could tell me exactly, oh, we did it this way for this specific game because of blah. And maybe every game's different. Okay. Gazenja asks, abstracts like Martian dice might work for that. I'm not sure what that is in reference to. I apologize. Martian chess, though. I apologize, Gazentia. I am distracted and totally missed the reference to what your question is about. So, but I know you're around often enough that you'll clarify it for me soon. So I'll just move on because I know we'll talk more more soon. Darth Grader also asks, what's the story, if any, behind your BGG handle? How does Chaz translate to 80 grit? And how are there people in this world who know you as Charles, Charlie, or even Chuck? All right, everybody. It's been a year. And so I'll end the episode with the answer to this very informative, crazy time question. All right. So what's the story behind the 80 grit handle and Chaz versus Charles versus Charlie versus Chuck? You guys have come this far. I will reward you with this insider information. All right. So first of all, 80 grit. The 80 grit handle, 80 grit was the name of the first cat that my wife and I got when we were first married. Cats have little sandpapery tongues, so we wanted to call her 80 grit, like the sandpaper. But since it's a cat, it's got to be a weird version of the name. So we came up with 80, A-Y-G-R-I-T, 80 grit. It's phonetically the same, but it's spelled weird. And I found that as the internet became more prevalent and you'd need a username or a handle, lots of stuff was already taken. 80 grit is unique enough that 99% of the time it is available. So 80 grit became my online handle. And when I started up the Pair of Dice Paradise channel and stuff, I was going to continue having, it was also my BGG handle. So to make that correlation that, yeah, I'm that guy on BGG, I was going to have that be kind of the focus of, have everything kind of referred to as 80 grit. That tapered off and petered out. The use of 80 grit on Pair of Dice Paradise tapered off really fast. So that never really went anywhere. But it's still the handle I use on BGG and anywhere else that I need a handle because it's always available. So that's the story behind 80 grit. It has really nothing to do with Chaz. So your question of Chaz versus Charles versus Charlie versus Chuck. Essentially, all of those, they're all derivatives or they're all short for Charles. Which, if you've ever wondered, is my given name. But so they're all nicknames for that. And I've been called, that's one of the weird things about life is when you have a name where everybody can call you something different. To be honest, growing up, my family has always referred to me as Chuck, which is why, follow on Facebook, you'll see a lot of stuff from family and relatives refer to me as Chuck. Now the Chaz is basically because that is an inside joke with my best friend from middle school that got blown way, way out of proportion. It was never my intention for it to go that far as it has. But since everyone on the internet now, because I used Chaz as my Facebook name when I created my Facebook account, just to poke my best friend to continue the running gag that he and I have had since 6th grade, just because I used that as my Facebook name, it's what has been picked up, what everyone online and in the board game online community know me as. And so that is what has stuck with everything that I do with board game media. So whether it's Chaz or Charles or Charlie or Chuck or whatever, it's all just derivatives of Charles. But there you go. The nice thing about it, though, is when someone shouts out Chaz in a crowded board game convention, I'm pretty sure to point in that direction because they're trying to get my attention. Because like 80 grit, it's fortunately a unique enough name that I, have been able to carve out a little niche and know when they're talking to me. So, mystery solved. So there's a reward for everyone who has bothered to follow along this long into the program, into the series, into my 4th year now producing board game media content. I want to thank everyone who has taken the time to participate and contribute and be involved in everything. I really, really appreciate it. And I look forward to doing more episodes of the Metagame, whether it's continuing to be on the Dice Tower as the videos I'm doing through 2017, or we relocate or whatever. I don't know. It's going to be fun. We're going to just figure out how to have fun with it, and we'll go from there. But in the meantime, do me a favor and subscribe to both the Pair of Dice Paradise and YouTube Dice Tower channels. Hooray for live video streams. Subscribe to Dice Tower and Pair of Dice Paradise for more board game news, reviews, and commentary. And follow us on Twitter and Facebook as well to continue the conversations there. Hey, I want to thank everyone who's taken the time to join us today and over the last year and for the months to come. Until the next time we all get a chance to gather together, I've been Chaz Marler, or someone from Pair of Dice Paradise. Thank you for joining us. I'll talk to you again soon. Take care.
Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.